Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to the eastern wing of the Stink Bug Works. In front of you is something many of you have already seen, many of you have only heard about, and many of you probably have no idea this ever existed. Stand by. This is a Gropner silver bullet. It's from, sometime in the 1990s. This puppy's 30 years old. Well, yeah, it's 30 years old. I had it powered when I had a bigger lake. I used to run at Poway Lake, and Poway Lake had room. I could open these things up and take advantage of the speed. And then I hit a duck, and they said, "You killed a duck." And I said, "Well, I didn't mean to." And bottom line is they weren't too happy. And so they said, "There'll be no more boating on this lake." And thus ended model boats there at Poway. Anyhow, because I run at a smaller pond now, this I ran on 3 cells. It's a 4,000 kV rocket 2968. And this thing did right smartly well with this motor. And 120 amp speed control. It did right smartly well. Well, now I have a smaller pond. And it's like, what do I do with a smaller pond? So I ignored this boat for the longest time. Well, because I'm giving away what I was running on 2S, my 2S Hydro, I said, you know what? Why don't I put this one back on the water? So to that end, I have repowered this thing with another 29 series motor, but a smaller motor. So this one, I'm going to use the same battery pack, the same 3S 3500 battery pack, except now I'm running an 1112 1Y new motor. And so I've stepped down to a 70 amp speed control. So I shed a bunch of weight that's fairly close to the CG. So it's not going to move my CG forward that far. But there's the new setup. It's lost a considerable amount of weight. A considerable amount of weight. So look for this the next time out. Okay, so we got that taken care of. That. Oh, this was a pain in the ass to get it to work, but I finally got it to work using actually a higher gear ratio, but these are lower kV than the original, even smaller motors that were in here. And now this thing runs nice and smooth. So it'll be a snug fit, but it's going in the the skedaddle jet. I'll be soldering up leads on it, and I'll just use all the existing wiring that's in there. It's wired for 2 brushless motors. I'm going to run these 2 on 1 speed control, so I'll just use 2 of the 6 wires going in there, and the other 4 will just be floating around in there. Oh well, that's the way it works when you're doing prototype stuff. Let's see. That now I'm stuck with these little tiny 7,800 kV 2030 motors. And what shall I do with these? These are too high of a kV to use on a boat, but maybe I gear drive them. You know, make a little smaller gear drive than this. Remember the backstory on this. If I had this to do over again, I'd do it totally different. But this was a gearbox from a boat I made back in the, when would that have been? Was I living in this house? No, it was before I was living in this house. So it would have been more, it'd been 30 years ago. About the time I was running this, I had 2 motors just like this in this thing, but it was much bigger. If I were remaking that, it would be carbon fiber and smaller and more precise. Because this looks like it was done with a kid that had a hand drill and a file. And that might have been just the extent of my tools back then. So I'm going to come up with a project for this. This worked really well in the Gecko, but it's kind of heavy and bulky. This might be a perfect replacement. We'll just have to see. Until then, boys and girls, jet out.